So the Upanishya Gochara is the development of the right consideration or reflection of the object to be known, so that there's more and more familiarity. So it becomes the habit to understand the reality as taught by the Buddha, such as visible object or seeing, Vedana, so that habit becomes accumulated, so it develops until it is a protection from going the wrong way. And this leads to the development of Satipatthana, which is the direct understanding of reality. And this is the third one, Panibandha Gochara, that it is Satipatthana and Vipassana Jnana, which directly understands the object, which has been well considered and well reflected over and over.
Great, thank you.
Yes, the object is always a conditioned reality with the three gocharas. It's not that they are different objects, but they refer to different levels of awareness and understanding.
Yeah.
So like now, there is the reflection, the wise consideration about different realities as condition for the direct understanding, the development of Satipatthana, the Panibandha Gochara.
Yeah,
Great.
it's good. Yeah.
So you asked which does one condition the other, right? Meaning does the object condition the awareness and understanding or whatever? So it's not really a case of the object cannot condition understanding, but it's a way of looking at or describing the different levels of understanding by reference to the object.
Oh, yes, because you often mention that it's not the object itself.
Yeah.
Visible object cannot lead to understanding.
Yeah,
It's the right understanding of the object
itself,
that accumulates, yes.
Yeah.
Of the right object, yes.
Yeah.
Thank you. Helpful.
This word gochara actually means resort, and it appears in the context of conduct and resort, the twofold. And presumably these were things that were discussed in those times. What is the proper conduct and resort for a bhikkhu, for example, a monk? And usually resort conduct, we all know, well, it means bodily conduct, but also more importantly, it means the mental, the consciousness that accompanies bodily conduct. Resort is usually thought of in terms of place or association with other people and that sort of thing. But here, it's made clear that resort, the proper resort for the bhikkhu is any object which is understood by understanding.
Any reality which is understood.
So it's not a case of being in a certain place or being with certain people or a situation at all. It's all to do with there being understanding of the present reality.
The object taught by the Buddha, which means any conditioned reality appearing now. That is the gochara.
Yeah.
Perhaps Ajahn. Hello, everyone else, and perhaps Ajahn is here now as well. Are you here, Ajahn?
Ajahn, are you there?
Perhaps we'll just carry on then.
We can
Sarah, perhaps you could explain again why, say, visible object or any sense object itself cannot be a condition for understanding? I just came in.
Yes, the main condition for understanding is the previous tendency or habit or accumulation of understanding from the past. So now visible object is seen, but if there's no understanding of it, it cannot be a condition for understanding in future. So there has to be the understanding of visible object.
Okay, I
You
get it.
condition
All right.
it, because all
Thank
day
you.
long, with or without the Buddha's teachings, there's seeing a visible object, but it doesn't lead to any understanding. So it's the Upanishad Gotra is the accumulation of understanding of the right object, which leads to more understanding. So this is why
And
we discuss a lot about different realities.
and Betty, all day long people are seeing visual object, but they mistake it for people and things and places or whatever.
Sarah, I have a question about what you just talking with Betty. When we see instantly, we see shape and form and all that, and the nimitta, because the arising and falling of reality is so fast. Like now, when I say seeing, there are uncountable of seeing, and we know by the way of nimitta that yes, this is seeing consciousness. And if we talk, but visible object, because just one moment it does not appear. Like the what appear is suddenly if I close and I open, oh, so many color and all that, nimit and anupayanchana. So we can't know one because it's impossible, right? But we know by the repetitive of the reality.
When there is direct understanding of visible object, it, as you say, must be the nimitta of visible object, because the visible object has fallen away anyway in the mind, or it can only be nimitta of reality. And it's there have been countless visible objects, so it's the sign of visible object, but it is the understanding of characteristic of visible object that appears, and that's the important point. Otherwise we may think, oh, there are so many and there can't be understanding and this, but when there is direct understanding of the characteristic of reality, that characteristic appears, even though in truth it's the nimitta of the reality of visible objects that have been seen.
I have the same question like Archie, because I always find it difficult. In theory, I know realities arise and fall away so very fast. We can only know the sign, the nimitta. And Ajahn mentioned it last time, indeed, about the nimitta. And so I have a question. They arise so fast, he said, they all can be known by way of nimitta. And it was explained before, I know, but I still find nimitta such a difficult subject. I mean, in theory, we know, but really understanding is very far away. So it's useful if Ajahn could maybe elaborate more on nimitta.
Are you there, Ajahn?
Ajahn, are you there? Ajahn?
Well, she said a few seconds.
Oh, okay. So my comment would be that the nimitta, as you said, arises and falls away. I mean, the reality arises and falls away very quickly. So only the nimitta, the after image, can be experienced if there is awareness and understanding, because rather than awareness taking the actual reality, visible object, it's the nimitta of visible object.
Nimitta,
but also the thinking about what has been seen also comes in very quickly. And so there's the idea of people and things happening so quickly.
So quickly.
So but when there is awareness and understanding of the reality, that understanding, the reality cannot be found in the idea of people and things. So the reality of visible object can't be found by trying to see it in the people and things, which is a concept. It's a completely different plane of a domain, if you like, to the idea of the people and things. So that is why what the Buddha taught has to be considered very carefully, and that consideration, he said, can be a condition for some awareness and understanding of the actual reality.
Yes.
But it can't be made to appear, the reality, from among people and things. It just depends on conditions.
Yeah. So Ajahn is ready, I read on the message. So it's helpful. Can Ajahn explain more on nimitta?
Ajahn, are you there now?
สวัสดีค่ะ
Swadikap, Ajahn. Swadikap.
So we are talking about nimitta, and in theory we understand it's a sign because realities are arising and falling away so fast. We never can catch one reality, but still nimitta seems a rather difficult subject to really understand it. So it would be helpful if you could elaborate on nimitta a little more.
If we don't think about the term at all, just what is now appearing, we don't call it anything yet, but
Yeah.
what is there now? Is there anything appearing?
Yes, but
So
usually,
just one kind at a time, please. What is seen, or what is heard, or what is there now? Hardness, or taste, or whatever. Just one, see. It's very hard to say because it's gone and then arise and fall away instantly, very very rapidly. That's why we cannot say what is seen, see. Only now, what we used to take it as something there. At moment of a table, a chair, is there any idea about that is only seen, the reality, the absolute reality of that at that very moment is seeing, and there's that which is seen, only that. Is that not right? What is seen is only that which is now appearing. When there is seeing, it's there as object, which is seen. Otherwise, how can seeing arise without the object of seeing? So just study Dhamma is study what is there now in truth, in absolute truth. We take it for a chair, but where is that? When there is no seeing, is there any chair? At moment of touching, is it a chair or what is touched? Learn to understand each moment as it is, not altogether as something. When we talk about a table, it's a thing, but what is there which can be experienced one doorway at a time? At moment of touching, at moment of seeing. For instance, see, just talk about the absolute truth. So to understand Dhamma is understand what is there now. If there is no understanding about it, of its absolute truth, what is there? There cannot be the understanding of Dhamma. So studying Dhamma is to understand that which is now appearing, to really know the truth. What is the absolute truth of moment of seeing, hearing, smelling, tasting, touching, thinking? Only 6 doorways in a day, from day to day, only that. From last life to this life and to next life. All which is now in this life, was there last life and will be there next life. Different moment, different reality, but the same kind, like seeing cannot be hearing, no matter in what life. Seeing has to be seeing, and seeing is conditioned to arise, but it does not see a table at all. It does not see a tree at all. So what is there which is seen, only can be seen?
Visible object.
Just say that, see? But actually, who's there? Hachi?
No, it's just
See? As long as it's still someone or something. Is there anything on the table? See, is there anything on the table? Not the truth. the absolute truth of that which is seen, because it's something there on the table. So we learn to understand the truth as not self until there can be more understanding of Dhamma, that which is real, anatta, never be controlled at all. That's Dhamma. Understand the way it is more and more, to have more confidence of Dhamma as not self, as not anything at all. So when there is no understanding of the characteristic of the reality which appears, what is seen is nimitta of a characteristic of reality, and to all at once come together to be with different shape and form as something all the time at moment of seeing.
Ajahn, nimitta here is the concept, but there is a reality. That's why there is concept.
Do we have to say the word concept?
No.
So what is concept? Understanding what is meant for concept. See, otherwise we use the term concept, always concept. But what is concept? How come to be a concept? Without that which experiences, can there be any concept?
Yeah, like Ajahn, what I'm going to say that there can be no concept without reality. This is the reasonableness of Dhamma that is true and cannot be changed.
Who knows?
Panya.
See, is it there now enough to let go the idea of something? That's why hearing the teachings on and on with more confidence, with more understanding. So one day, the understanding of no one and no thing can be at moment of touching, and that moment is the awareness of a reality with understanding of that particular object, not the other, just one at a time, until one is so used, panya is due to the characteristic of no self, more and more and more, letting go a little at a time, until the reality appears, well, as it is, not as nimitta of things, but it has to be nimitta of a characteristic of a reality.
Yes, Ajahn, you are right.
I think it also is, as was said last time, that it has to be the understanding about the truth of the reality itself, not just the word. Otherwise, one keeps thinking and obsessing about the word, and it just becomes the object of clinging. And one has the idea that by thinking and working out the word and determining whether it's concept or not, it will bring understanding, but it's the wrong way round. There has to be the understanding of the reality itself, and then no doubt about what is the reality and what is the concept and what is meant by the nimitta. But if one just tries to work out the word, one loses sight of understanding just what appears right now.
Yes, Sarah, because before I said I was worried about concept and confusion about it. And then you answered, it doesn't matter. It doesn't matter so much because it's the reality now. So I found that very good, the answer that you gave.
We forget about the dear enemy that Ajahn was talking about last time, Loba, when it's just trying to catch it or work it out. Instead of just the opposite of letting go, just letting go and understanding just what appears now, no matter it's confusion or doubt or seeing or sound, just what appears right now. Otherwise, it's more and more clinging, but in the name of Dharma, so it's not recognized.
It's not the understanding, it's just lost in the story.
It's just the story about Dharma's, not the understanding of just what appears now.
The reason there is concept of people and things, it's because there is thinking of shape and form of the, say, the visible object that is being experienced. that in itself is something that occurs naturally, regardless of the level of understanding that has been developed. So whether a person has a lot of ignorance or wrong view or no wrong view, there is still constant thinking about the shape and form of the objects that are being experienced through the sense doors.
Is after seeing, there has to be thinking about seeing. This is way of Dhamma.
Exactly. So when we talk about nimitta, it's really in the context of the fact that when there's awareness of, say, visible object or sound, it's not awareness of a single moment of that reality, but of many moments, and it appears to be like continuous. And the explanation for that is that what is being experienced by the awareness and understanding, which is relatively undeveloped, is the nimitta of the reality at those times.
So like in everyday life, like what I'm reading, even feeling, we know by, if suppose like sad, or not only one moment of sad, but repetitive, and that's why we know it's sad, or whether it's sankhara or vinyan or whatever, we live by word of nimitta.
But the main point, it is the understanding of just the reality which appears. Otherwise, someone may have the idea that if they work out the story of nimitta, then it will lead to more understanding. But it's the understanding itself of what appears that leads to the understanding of why it has to be like that.
So say, Hanchi, that what you just described of thinking I'm sad or whatever is also just thinking about the it's not direct awareness of the reality, is it? It's thinking about one's mood or emotion, which is accessible to anyone, whether they've heard the Dhamma or not.
Yes.
Still the story of I and my sadness, my seeing and my lack of understanding of nimitta. So usually it's all about me and my experiences.
Because idea of I will come
just
behind all this. Yeah.
So that kind of knowing of one's mood or feeling or something is not anything to do with the understanding of the reality of the present moment, of something that's appearing now.
Yes, Sarah, like through what we know that eyes, ear, and a nose or tongue, the feeling that arises neutral. But when through body senses, it's either dukkha or sukha. But when in mind doorway, it can be somanas, domanas, and neutral. What I want to ask is that when moment of feeling, the body senses is either no hard, soft, hot, cold, or tangible object. The dukkha vedana or sukha vedana that arises, it does not appear, right? Because the object is like what I have just said.
At the moment of experiencing through the body, the object is the tangible object, but the feeling that arises, the pleasant feeling or unpleasant feeling, it's experiencing that object, and it can be the object of understanding too. The nimitta of the pleasant bodily feeling or unpleasant bodily feeling can be known not at that moment of experiencing, but only through the mind door.
Because Sarah, I was confusing because okay, mind door is we use somana and tomana is different from either dukkha or sukha. So I was under, how can we know sukha and sukha? I was just curious about that. So maybe perhaps you can explain.
When there's pain, that is bodily feeling. Of course, there is the other kind of feeling also, but clearly when there's something, contact is too hot, for example, and it's painful, that is bodily feeling.
Hunger, or when one's in the shower, too hot, too cold.
Headache, or something like that.
The pain, bodily feeling.
But what we say painful is known in mind doorway, not the body sense doorway, right?
Cannot be, because the object through the body doorway is always the rupa, the tangible object.
Okay.
And usually what is taken for being the painful feeling, like the hunger or the painful feeling when it's too hot, usually there's a long story because it's all been mixed up with the domanassa and the aversion to it. So a long story about how it was painful for 5 minutes, but actually it's just one very brief moment at the moment of experiencing the rupa and then fallen away instantly. But it has a reality.
Try and sort out which is the bodily painful feeling and which is the unpleasant mental feeling.
Yeah, that's what I want to ask.
Yeah.
Otherwise, it's
point.
I trying to catch it and again. But it's good to understand that it's just that reality which arises at a moment of bodily experiencing of a rupa and then gone. But its characteristic can be known as that reality, a dharma, not my painful feeling, but just that moment of feeling that arises for an instant and then gone, different from the domanassa, which arises, the unpleasant feeling which arises with dosa, in the mind or.
Yeah, thank you. And Sarah, Nibbana, it's said to be a nimitta because there's no sign of reality that arises and falls. So nimitta, in a way, is a sign of reality that arises and falls. Every reality that arises and falls.
Exactly. Nibbana is the only reality that doesn't have nimitta because it doesn't arise and fall away. The only animitta Dhamma.
But nimitta has to is only known by nama. If suppose there's rupa, but no experience, no chitta and cetasika, there's nothing, no nimitta of reality also, because what known is nama, not rupa. Rupa cannot know anything.
Right. Rupa cannot experience anything. It can't know anything. It's just the reality which can only be experienced, like at the moment of touching the rupa. It doesn't know anything. It has no idea about what is experiencing it or whether it's pleasant feeling. It's just that reality which doesn't experience. But the nimitta of rupa or the nimitta of nama, the nimitta of any conditioned reality, can be understood if there are the right conditions and if understanding has been accumulated. I thought it was very helpful last time, the discussion, more discussion about hiri and ottappa, and how when there is hiri and ottappa with any moment of kusala, it is the letting go, understanding the shame of any akusala, even the danger in the smallest faults even. So even the moments of trying to work it out, trying to get the story right, the lobha is there. There can be the understanding with hiri and ottappa, which sees the shame in not understanding at that moment or pursuing with lobha. So it's actually about this moment. So whatever we hear about hiri and ottappa, it has to be accumulated with understanding even right now. Yes. And the lobha takes us away all the time. Yes.
I found it so impressive what Ajahn said about the different stages of insight, because it's all in the book in Survey of Paramattha Dhammas. And seeing the danger is one stage. And she explained that cannot be before Bhanga Jnana, the dissolution of the arising and falling away of realities. And then she said, and Panya is so great, it's not thinking at all. I found that very helpful as a reminder that it is, we read the whole list of all the different stages, but it is all in this moment and not at all thinking. So I found it very helpful that Ajahn repeated several times that Panya is so great at that moment.
And at any moment of kusala, hiri and ottappa are there at those moments. So there is the shame of akusala and the danger of akusala, but it's not the understanding of the danger of the arising and falling away of realities, which is high vipassana jnana, which Nina is referring to, which Ajahn discussed in more detail last time. So it's important to appreciate the difference between any moment of kusala and how there is here in Ottappa, but it's not understanding of the danger.
All wholesome deed has to have, whether it's kusala or kiriya chitta of arahatta, it has to have Hiri Ottappa.
That's right.
And akusala in vice versa have shamelessness in bad deeds.
Any akusala, yes. So any moment of lobha, however very subtle, like right now, there is ahirika and anuttapa at those moments.
They have to be shamelessness in order to be akusala each moment.
Yes. No shame of ignorance or lobha at those moments.
And Ajahn also explained that Ottappa, the danger, it is a danger when akusala is accumulated more, and that ignorance brings more akusala. That she was stressing is helpful.
Ajahn, perhaps you may want to talk about this topic.
What about other topic? It depends on just the very moment. What is there cannot be known without panya. But when panya is there, what that is not known before can appear as the object to panya. See, so it depends on panya. What is there? For example, when there is thinking, even the object appears as no one at all. What about thinking? Can there be thinking? See? And this is panya. Consider wisely to understand the truth. The truth has to be the truth. At moment of seeing right now, there is thinking after seeing, right? So at that very moment, when the object appears so clear, appears well to panya, of what level? Can there be thinking? Even of that object, can there be thinking after that object appears, or together after, suddenly, closely? Can there be thinking?
Yes.
Each Dhamma should be object of studying the truth, so that panya begins to develop by one's own consideration about the truth. The truth has to be the truth. At moment of experience directly, the object, can there be thinking of it, object?
Yes.
Why not?
We find thinking so very important, and very much we take it for self all the time. Thinking about reality, thinking about what is said, what you explained, all the time. The thinking comes in, and very important. And we are so used to it coming in that it's really not object of understanding. We are forgetful of that.
So panya has to understand whether it also understands thinking as no self, or it's the thinking with the self. Because you see that before there can be the letting go of the sanya, vedana, sankhara khanda, and vijnana khanda. It's not just in a moment, because the moment of clingings are accumulated quite a long time ago. So at the moment of just experience the truth, thinking it also the truth. So panya has to develop until nothing is left to be I at all. From one stage of vipassana jnana to higher stage, which is clearer than that, much more. because it takes quite a long time to be used to what we take for self in a day, to be just a reality, letting go little by little. So Panya knows directly what is left and what is not yet left. What about Sanya now? Because Haji would like to talk about what you asked before. What about the other object? Because they are all Dhammas, the understanding of one Dhamma will lead to the understanding of other Dhamma, because they have the same characteristic as no one, no thing, no self. But so many realities in a day. So they are quite different from one to one. Like thinking now is not thinking before. Even the understanding develops little by little. It's different too. So whatever is there, it's the test to understand whether how much understanding of that reality is. What degree. That's why one understands what's meant by parami, viriya parami, and khanti parami. Letting go, or not let go yet. See, it knows. For example now, no letting go of sanya or vedana, because when will it be object of letting go with understanding? It's not now, but it can be when the conditions are ready or ripe enough. Ready enough to condition such moment unknowingly. That's why letting go, what will be next? No one knows. Depending on Panya, whether it's the understanding of that which is now appearing, even not before, as the beginning of the discussion, all gone. What about the understanding of that which is now appearing? See, the same, we don't know how Panya works. Touching the handle's knife, see, we don't know how much is gone. It's very little by little, so very little, not seen, not known at all. But it's there, see? So the more we talk about it, Panya works. The Sankhara performs a function, and understanding begins to understand that all Dhammas that we are talking about anytime, it's here and now, only here, so close, so very close. We don't have to find out other place or other time. It has to be just now.
Yes,
So,
like someone want to go to a meditation center to find Dhamma, but they don't understand this Dhamma is within you, everywhere, near.
so when there is the wrong understanding, it's the proof for not understanding Dhamma at all. It depends on just remembering the word anatta or panjati and how many cetasikas. But what about now? How many cetasikas? See, it's a hiri and ottappa, so that we know that it's different from moment of akusala. Chanda, to understand the truth with viriya and with the wise considering. See, and Passa is there all the time, no matter when. At this moment of seeing, there must be Passa and Vedana. And this is the way for Panya to develop, to understand it, which is not known now, but later. Even the sort of pleasant feeling can be object. Who knows? Of Panya, no selection. Or painful feeling can be object of Panya. See, any object has to be object of right understanding as not self, before the idea of self can be completely, absolutely eradicated. So this is the way, the path leading to the end of anusaya kilesa.
And Ajahn, when we, even right now, they have to be virya and patient to even listen Dhamma to understand. So, because Dhamma is hard and profound, so it requires tremendous amount of patience and virya.
It's not the object yet, right, of understanding. But whatever is real can be object of understanding. And the understanding of anatta will be more firm, more confident of that object, see? Not just of what or anything, but of that object. For example, hearing, seeing, different reality, different moment, different conditions, different numbers of cetasika. So one can understand the birthplace of whatever will be in life. It has to be seeing and long story of that which is seen, hearing, long story. Whatever is there will bring about more story about that. See, no time to understand the truth if there is no understanding of the words, of the teachings of the Buddha. That is so very subtle because it's not seen now. It has to be heard quite a long time to condition the understanding of that which is now. So very short. So very natural. So very anatta.
Ajahn, there's nothing that can do, so it has to be anatta.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
More confidence. With chanda, with hiri, with ottappa, with vriya, see? With sati, manasikara, and other reality together. So how can there be the I in just a moment, conditioned moment, and then never to arise again in samsara?
Well, Ajahn, ignorance and wrong view and all other kilesas have been so long accumulated in eons, so it's natural for to think self all the time. But yeah, but Panya develop little bit and understand that that is Dhamma and that is a way to eradicate little by little.
So Panya understands what is there in a day, in a moment.
Yes.
Moment of eating, moment of sleeping, moment of any moment. This is the way Dhamma is in Thai, Thammada, in Pali, Dhammata.
Yeah.
Dhammata.
Dhamma is normal. There's nothing abnormal. How can seeing not be abnormal? Like it's normal. Way of Dhamma is normal. Nothing. Dhamma Dhammata.
And ignorance is normal too.
Yes, ignorance also normal. Every moment it's normal. But the self want to make it something that's abnormal.
Is it a way of being normal?
Well, the being of Dhamma is normal, but when the idea of saying, oh, that should have been like that, that should have been, that is abnormal. Want it to be different, not how Dhamma is, the way supposed Dhamma to be.
As it is, it's the normal of Lobha.
Yes, normal of Lobha.
And I think, Haji, like you were mentioning before, how it's wrong when someone has the idea of going to a meditation center to develop understanding, which we all appreciate. And Ajahn sometimes talks about the practice disease, but it can be the practice disease even now if there's trying to catch the reality or trying to work it out. It's unseen, but actually even then, even now, it can be the practice disease trying to focus, trying to understand exactly the painful bodily feeling, trying to get it. It's not the letting go of just what appears at this moment.
Yeah,
So
because
this
in
is why
daily,
it's so subtle.
because in daily life, everyone still has idea of I can do something. It doesn't mean that you have to go to meditation center.
Or knowing
Yeah.
knowing my feeling now, or catching the nimitta of visible object now. It can be right now. So what we say about the wrong practice or the practice these can be at this very moment. That's why whatever we study, whatever understanding there is, has to come back to this moment, to the understanding now. And this is a way that there is more sympathy, more kindness, more understanding of the others that follow the wrong practices that's more obvious or more evident, because actually it can be now too.
All of us have, and
Same
always have
problem
been
for-
in samsara. So
Exactly.
every day is not. We also have idea of I can do so many times in a day. So
Until wrong view and the idea of self has been eradicated,
yes,
it can come in any time.
even now also unknowingly. Yeah, good point, Sarah. Thank
Yeah,
you.
good comments, Haji. Maybe some other people have some questions for Ajahn, like Alan or Jyotika or Alberto or Tadao or Betty or any.
Sarah, is seeing light or dark? Because we talk about visible object being light, but is seeing consciousness light or is it dark at the moment of understanding seeing? Because it has its object.
But only the visible object is the reality, which is light. So seeing sees that light reality, and understanding can understand that light reality when visible object appears. But seeing is not light, it's just the reality which experiences the light reality at
So
that
at that
moment of seeing.
moment of Vipassana Jnana, then it's dark. It's just a reality which experiences, nobody there, no lightness there at all.
Can we talk about light or dark in the context of nama?
In the context that it has its object, seeing sees visible object, so it has its object something light, because it's only the visible object which is light, isn't it? But
Well, only light is what?
what is seen, I'm referring to it as what is seen.
Right. So it's
Yeah.
rupa, right?
Yes.
So it's
So,
the
and
only reality
nama-
that is light.
So we can't talk about nama being light or dark.
No, it's just that it has its object, doesn't it? Or something like, it's a bit like thinking, because thinking is real, but it has its object, a concept. But at the moment of thinking, there is the concept, isn't there?
That's why we have to differentiate the seeing and what is seen. So it's only that which is seen that is light, the visible object itself. It has that characteristic. So at the moment of hearing, for example, nothing light at all. So
Yes. Yeah.
visible object is not being experienced or being directly understood, then no lightness at all. The world is dark.
Right. So the moment of seeing, if seeing is the object, the world is dark.
It's dark. It's because seeing is not light. Only the visible object
Only
itself
the
is
visible
light.
object is light. Yeah. Okay. Yeah. That's my question. Thank you.
It's so amazing. Like now, it seems light all the time, but just at the moment of when visible object appears, just at the moment of seeing only, and then dark again.
Like
Doesn't last for an instant.
I think I have discussed with my dad once, and he told that 99.9% we are in darkness.
Yes. Yeah. We make it light by not understanding realities.
And it shows how very brief the moment of seeing is, just like the moment of touching with painful feeling, so very brief. It seems
Yes.
to last. The painful feeling seems to last, or it seems that the heat is touched for a long time, just like it seems like the light is seen for a long time, but it's just for an instant and then gone. No, and then darkness again.
So last time, I think, or 2 weeks ago, you talked about pop-up. I like that word pop-up because it kind of it indicates the suddenness or the unexpectedness of reality. But that's quite a high level of understanding if it refers to panya, isn't it? Because for there to be that pop-up, that is not thinking anymore. That is pati. When a reality pops up without any expectation, without any prior effort, if you like, that is pati, not pariyati.
The direct
understanding,
which clearly understands the object.
Yes,
from thinking or beginning to understand.
I think it's a good word. It's like the word appear, because the word appear contains in it the idea of suddenness, the idea of pop-up, that word appear, whereas awareness doesn't really, that word doesn't actually contain that kind of anatomness, if you like. So I think the word appear is a really good word, and the word pop-up is a really good word to use to express that the nature of the reality which understands, that it doesn't come from out, it just suddenly comes into being unexpectedly.
And it shows how it has to be the letting go right from the beginning, because when there's trying to catch the reality or the subtle kinds of practice we were just talking about, trying to understand, trying to get the meaning, trying to get the point. It's not the understanding that any reality has to arise unexpectedly by its own conditions, not by anyone doing anything at all.
Sarah, even I have same question as Alan. What I want to clarify is that the word pop-up, it means that when Satipatthana or either Vipassana yard, Dhamma pop-up unexpectedly, no selection, like to Satipatthana and Vipassana. That is the meaning of pop-up, right?
It's actually the phrase that Ajahn has been using, but what I understand is that it's referring to, for example, a term umaga in the Umaga Sutta, referring to moments of understanding at the level of Vipassana Jnana, which understands the object clearly and it depends on when it may pop up anytime unexpectedly to understand what appears now clearly. But even in the beginning, when understanding begins to develop, it has to begin to understand the unexpected object which appears by conditions.
Because
no one knows next what will appear, whether it's annoyance or attachment or seeing or sound. So from the beginning, it is the understanding of reality, which is anatta, which arises completely unexpectedly or pops up in this sense. So that understanding understands more and more clearly, yes.
Yeah, as you were alluding to a little earlier, I think the idea is also that it makes distinction between panya and thinking, because when there's no panya, then there's the idea that we can think our way to understanding. We try to catch realities, and as though thinking is the way to understand, but it's thinking, it is panya which understands.
And I think it is a real trap when we begin to study the Dhamma, thinking that we can work out this and then another point and another point, like a jigsaw puzzle, and get all the points and all the points clear, learn the terms, learn the labels, and then understanding will develop. But it's not like that, because it has to be this moment, beginning to understand what appears right now. And that's why the careful considering is so important.
Sarah, because when Panya arises, Panya at that moment see that the Dhamma is anatta, see the anatta clearly, see that unexpected. It's understand anatta because of Panya that understand, so it's pop up to Panya.
Exactly, that's right. Well put.
I have a
Maybe-
question for Ajahn. Sarah, do you want to say something?
To say that Ajahn may like to add more about the pop-up, but you carry on with yours, Azita.
Okay. Ajahn, I heard you one time say anyone can do and say what they want. And I was thinking about that in the last few days, about people and the things they say, and usually it's my reaction to it, like dosa or lopa. Can you sort of say a little bit about what you mean by anyone can say and do what they want, please?
If there's no Dhamma at all, can there be anyone thinking, moving, talking at will? Because even will is a reality, Cetana, Cetasika. See, so I can say, I see Kun Ashita, but there is the understanding of what is there. See, but I have to say whom I see. I see Kun Ashita, see, but I understand what Ashita is. That's why Buddha can talk Ananda and Sariputta and so on. But there is the understanding of what is the truth of that moment. No one and nothing. Only the Paramada Dhamma together as something that we have to use the word to be understood who we mean. Kun Ashita, Kun Jonathan, Kun Sarah. See? So understanding is understanding. Each word can be understood by oneself because it's so true. For example, even right now, realities, Phassa, Vedana, Sanya, Cetana arise, who knows? See? Because it's not Panya which understand the moment when it arises. And that is not just intellectual understanding, pariyati, not only just patipati, but it is the pativeda. Because even right now, it depends on conditions. When there is no sati, but there is the understanding about that which is seen, that which is touched, but no sati of moment when there is touching. So no understanding of that object at moment of touching. Different levels of understanding, see? And no one can force sati to arise or understand to understand at moment of touching. It depends on conditions. Is it ready to understand quicker and quicker, or just there once and then gone? Not accustomed, not used to that characteristic as no self yet. So it depends on how much understanding develops to understand. If we think that whatever is now appearing has a reason, see? But at the moment when it arises, not known, so it's not pop-up. But when it's there so clear, see, just one reality at a time, is it not just pop-up unexpectedly? And sati is there, and panya is there, depending on how great, how much, how sharp panya is to understand it to what far. At level of this or higher than that, experience is the pop-up and not enough letting go more to see that it's so useless. What about just that arise and falls away? See, not only once, but all in one life, and not just this life, next life, as it has been the lives before. See, only that, no one, just the way Dhamma is. Seeing just arise to see, and no more, and then no more. Just experience that. What for? To see, only that, and then fall away. Each moment is conditioned. But when we use I can see, with or without understanding. because I is not me, but we have to use the word I or he or she. But there is the understanding that it is a reality which has been conditioned to arise and see, and that's all. Gone away instantly. So all depends on understanding what level, how much, how sharp to let go the idea of self at what stage. But the arising and falling away this moment does not appear as no one and nothing at all. While talking, there is seeing as well. So what about the arising and falling away of seeing? Can anyone make it that way? Not at all. So it depends on understanding, no matter what we use the word, I or he or she or table or tree. See, the understanding is there to know what it is. So does phassa pop up? See, it arises, see, but panya, it's not that degree, that nothing and then something and then nothing. Only that, each moment, all gone. And when it's just in the beginning of experiencing, not enough, thinking about how it has been accumulated for how long, eons and eons and eons, uncountable eons, and how can it be gone away instantly for some days or some months or some years? Impossible. That's why it has to be in daily life to understand unexpectedly whether the next moment will be with awareness or without awareness. And when it is vipassana jnana, the unexpected moment is more firm. It's really pop up. They who make it arising as usual, but it does not appear well because of ignorance. How short, how quick a moment arises and falls away. See, seeing now uncountable, because that which is seen as so many things has to impinge on the eye base. Seeing arise and falls away, and other cittas which experience the same object, see, so short, before it can be the idea of something there with different shapes and forms. And this is life, no one at all. Before the shame of clinging to that which is useless. It's not that level of shame yet, until realizing the truth more and more and more enough to condition just even thinking that what's the use of being born, no matter in what plane as what, just arising and falling away all the time. And then the end of this life, the end of this personality, see. So what is Ashita in truth? See, just realities in this life, only this life. Past life was not Ashita, next life not Ashita anymore. So what's the use of just have everything in a day and then gone at night, and then wake up something more and more in a day and then gone at night, falling fast asleep? See, the same thing which will be next life.
So Ajahn, so when Panya develop its higher and higher and see the more of uselessness of Dhamma that arise and fall, because what the use, right, Ajahn?
Otherwise, how can there be the seeing, understanding the danger of samsara?
I think, Ajahn, this is a slightly different answer to the question I asked, but it's a very good comment you're making, because what I had in my mind was usually my reaction to what people say or what people do. But it's like, it's almost, it's what they say. It is just sound when it comes across, really. In reality, it is just sound. Or when somebody's doing something that I think is, not good, or even good, it is just a visible object that occurs. So then there's a whole lot of thinking about what I hear, what I see. So I think it's all, if I don't hear what is the reality, that it arises, that it falls away, then I will continue on making judgments of people, which is
By then,
not helpful.
by then, you do not live alone, right? But in reality, do you live with anyone
No,
or alone?
alone.
See, so the understanding of alone means no one at all.
Like seeing alone, hearing alone, thinking alone.
And I think, Azita, the point of the original comment that you mentioned, anyone can say and do what they want. It's like sometimes people come up to Ajahn or say to us, oh, but another teacher says this, or someone says, oh, you need to do this, or this isn't right. And the point is, well, anyone can say anything. Anyone can have their own idea. Anyone has their own point or whatever have you, but what is the truth now? So no matter what anyone says, the understanding has to be of what appears now. Even like sometimes people say, oh, Ajahn said this, and someone says Ajahn said that, but what about just understanding what appears right now?
Yes, I think that's the
That was
point.
her point.
That's right. But I think it also applies to, I'm thinking of one person in particular that has sort of riled me a little bit, but it is the same thing. It's just hearing sound, it's seeing visible object, and unless there is that developing panya, knowing that it's just a reality, then we just continue on.
And each has their own way of thinking. And like we were saying, the more understanding, the more hiri and otapa, the more better and kindness there is, the more understanding there is, the more compassion when we hear what is not right, for example, because it has to be that way. And like you say, it's only sound that we're so disturbed about.
Yeah, exactly. Yes, thank you. Thank you,
And
Ajahn.
Azita, this kind of a thing is not just, when we are faced with situations as you described. Anytime, even when alone, are you alone really? Is that, because in the end, any situation is just the five senses and mind. And that's it, one reality at a time. So sometimes it may sound like we are reminded about that only when we are faced with a difficult situation in dealing with other, but actually there's no understanding anytime. And that can become an object of clinging when you think that, oh, next time I am faced with that person, I'll remember that only seeing and thinking,
That
it
is
can
just
keep
idea
the
of
wrong
I
practice.
that can do something. It's forgot about anatta actually.
And Zita, I think one of the questions I asked Ajahn was this when I first met her, and she gave me an answer because I had been staying at these different meditation centers, and I was a little bit confused when I first heard what she was saying, and I asked her what helped me to understand my confusion about what they say and now what I'm hearing now anew from Ajahn. And she said, anybody can say anything. And I think what she was saying to me at the time, well, I know what she was saying to me at the time, was that no matter what anybody says, we always have to consider very carefully what the other person says. Does it add up does it make sense? Is it in accordance with the Dhamma? That is always the most crucial thing. Does it sound right? Is it in accordance with the truth? And the more we consider that statement, anybody can say anything, when we really consider carefully what the other person is saying, is it in accordance with Dhamma that appears now? And if it is not in accordance with the Dhammas that appear now, we'll be continually thrown off by what the others say, because, as Ajahn said, anybody can say anything. Tana Jankap, I would like to ask you a question, though. I have a question about kaya pasada. Now, just last week, you were talking about chakku pasada and how tiny it is, and how tiny the object must be if chakku pasada was very tiny. My question is, kaya pasada or kaya dasika kalapa. Now, there must be thousands. Am I correct in saying there must be thousands and thousands, if not millions, of kaya pasada rupas all over the body? Because it's different from the other sense doors, slightly different, especially when we consider chakku pasada. But kaya pasada, it seems to me there must be hundreds, if not thousands, of potential sites, if you like, or places where kaya pasada arises. Can you speak a little bit about that, please?
Can we talk about what number of kalapa? How many kalapa in a body, no matter short or high or long or what?
Well, we know, for example, chakra pasada, there are 10 groups of 10 that arise. It's the same with any other karma jarupa, except for one other one, but jivatindriya. But the kaya pasada, there must be the 10 groups which make up that kalapa. But what I'm interested to learn is that site where that appears. It must be all over the body. There must be thousands of sites. Is that correct?
When we do not talk about the hand and the body and the foot, but whenever hardness or softness is there appeared, it means that there must be the kalapa, kaya pasada, which the hardness can impinge on that. Otherwise, the kaya vinyana cannot arise and the object cannot be experienced. So it's not just a matter of how. But whenever
whenever hardness appears on the body. Sorry, keep going, Tanajan, please.
When we talk about just one process of kaya vinyana, see, only one kalapa with kaya pasada is there as condition for kaya vinyana to arise.
True.
Only that which can be known, but we cannot count because only one.
And they can arise.
When hardness appear, it means that then.
And they can appear at any.
We don't think about.
So when hardness appears, it can appear obviously all over.
Yeah. And no idea about the whole body at all. Just that which experiences hardness. So how little, tiny that hardness is, because the kaya pasada, which arises with for primary rupas and other rupa, are so very tiny. Like now, there is seeing how many chakku pasada.
So obviously,
for each object to impinge on it.
Just that moment.
In order to understand, actually, there is no permanent thing at all. Only the word of nimitta, not understanding each process or each one yet. It's impossible because they arise and fall away so very rapidly. What can be known is only the nimitta, because only one process cannot be the object of understanding according to the way citta has to arise in order, in a process.
Yeah.
So the understanding has to understand firmly about Dhamma, each one, so very tiny, so very fast. Otherwise, the citta cannot be the magician. They will appear as people and things, but actually only that which is seen, that which is touched, and that which is talked about. That's why when we think of the others at that moment, what it's one's own, it was our own thought about that person. But what about citta at that moment, thinking about the others doing or done or spoke? See, no one, no person, it's gone. And the sanya just marks and remembers and think about it, not understand one's own kilesa. What citta is there, thinking about the other. And what can be eradicated, not the other, but one's own understanding of that very moment as no one, no me. This is the way to understand that actually there's no one at all. Only kusala citta or akusala citta, understanding or ignorance. Hiri otapa or ahirika anotapa. Phassa is there, see? Without phassa, nothing can appear, no citta can arise. Or in a moment and then gone completely. So what's the use of rising and falling away on and on and on, never to return, never to arise again in samsara? No me, because as long as it's not death, the time of death yet, it's me, it's I. But actually after death, who's there? No one. So even right now, it's just like that. So understanding can understand, and ignorance is there as ignorance. Attachment is there to learn to understand the moment of thinking about the other, because actually it's only the idea and sanya of that as a person. But actually it's only the thinking, memory about such and such happenings.
It's easy to forget, Ajahn.
This is the way to let go the idea of I, of things. When there is the idea of I, there must be someone which is not I or me, but is still someone. But when there is no me, no person, not that person, only realities which are kusala or akusala. And for those who do not understand the truth, it conditions metta. How long the samsara will keep on going because of ignorance. Even in Brahmaloka or in Deva plane, it's still dukkha ariya satya, because not permanent at all. So it's not permanent from this moment on and on. Not only that moment when it hasn't come yet. Each moment is not anyone.
So Ajahn, each moment is useless.
Say it again, please.
Each moment is useless because what's the point of arising and falling?
Would you like not to be born again?
They still have to born, still the lopas, they're still conditioned to be born. So
Even that is good enough to know what is conditioned for birth.
the attachment.
So this is the moment to begin to see the danger of lopa. Otherwise, it cannot appear as very dangerous. Cling to that which is no more at all. Never be there, only when it's there, experience, and that is all.
Ajahn, the word, another word for akusla mean dumb or stupid. It doesn't mean ignorance, but all akusla is stupid or dumb, and vice versa, all kusala are clever, and like it's stupid to attach something that already gone, right, Ajahn?
Akusala is dangerous.
Yes,
What is dangerous is akusala.
yes.
It depends on whether one can see its danger or not.
Like Ajahn, like what's attached something that already fallen is silly or stupid, right? If panya arise and understand it.
Can panya arise at moment of clinging?
No, no, no.
See,
After that can.
after that, it depends on conditions.
Condition.
Yeah, that's why there is chanda to have conditions for understanding. To see the danger of loba. And what should be seen in the beginning? The first thing to be eradicated, wrong understanding. Mhm. So one can understand how great lopa is, attached to everything. Even there is no wrong understanding, but it clings to sensuous objects, see, before it can be absolutely eradicated with higher panya developed.
Ajahn, like Buddha, he said that he don't see any other dharma that is as harmful as wrong view, and so because wrong view will lead to everything wrong, right?
And to samsara, on and on and on.
Ajahn, but some people, if suppose someone has an idea, say, like Buddha's, like we understand that wrong view will lead to all other akusala, it will, but some people might have said that if this I should do good and do good like this, if someone asks like this, what should I reply to them? Like what to explain?
I,
Yes.
so happiness, happy feeling is I.
No, like my point of question is like some people may say that if there's idea of I should be good and then they do good, and they say that because from the idea of I, so someone may contradict
Okay, so let them think whether the idea of I is right or wrong.
wrong, wrong.
See, if they still think that it's not wrong, they cling to that idea. But when there is the understanding of wrong understanding, does anyone would like to still have wrong understanding? See, so it depends on panya, right understanding only, who can understand the truth of everything.
See, I think for people who have a strong idea of I and have not heard about no self, they cannot imagine how, and there could be the doing of kusala with an idea of no self, because for them the only motivation is the idea of self.
Yes,
The whole world is that, so it's difficult for them to comprehend. So to answer your question, what can I say to them? Well, as Ajahn said, it's a problem of the basic understanding. So where does one start with?
because kusala that arise doesn't come from akusala. Akusala can never lead to kusala. Only panya can lead to more kusala.
But people who have an idea of self can still develop kusala.
But then they think that I that do good. They'll say that
That's
I,
correct.
the motivation behind, and
Yeah,
that's not.
they cannot develop the kusala that is awareness and understanding. Only the other forms of kusala.
They'll say that I should do dhan and all that and giving more. Suppose, for example. Yes, Sarah.
And the cause and result are mixed up. They think it's because of the clinging to I or because of the idea of I that there is more good. But
Yeah.
the moment of clinging of loba, it just conditions more loba. Whereas the giving or the sharing is the opposite of lobha. So it's mixed up, and the clinging is not seen in between the moments of kindness. So there's no understanding of the danger of the clinging to it as my giving, my good deeds.
They think that if
Accumulates more and more.
they think that if there's me that do more good, like, you know, behind the idea behind, but good has arise because of other condition, not that because wrong you can make it arise.
Right. And there cannot be the development, sorry, one final comment.
Yeah.
There cannot be the development of direct understanding of realities for that individual. So only certain kinds of good can be done as it. Sorry,
I was going to say that I think we could forget about the they and think about what we're doing ourselves. I mean, I hear a lot of they this, they that, but what about our own idea of I am developing, I am this, I am that, I'm better than them. I think, like Ajahn reminds us constantly, you know, what's the reality for us? Forget about the others. Like I think something that came up, I think it might have been last Monday or something, with Anne brought up the thing about compassion.
Yeah.
And I found that really helpful, that if you can't help the others, there is a possibility there might just maybe the conditions for having compassion arise. And yeah, if you can't help them, have compassion.
And when there is more kindness, more understanding, more conditions to help, instead of just showing that their idea is wrong, it's about encouraging the moments of kusala and appreciating those moments of kusala. And if there are opportunities, showing that the kusala is different from the moments of clinging to oneself, but just encouraging the kusala and helping with kindness as best as one can.
Like not having irritation, but having compassion. Now I know that's almost impossible. It's not like you can do it, but if there's knowledge that there is that possibility, that may right well be a condition for, rather than irritation about what they are saying, rather than irritation.
And we never know when something can be appreciated. Like yesterday, I was at the hairdresser and I had a long Dhamma chat with my hairdresser. She'd been considering some things that I'd said a year ago when I'd seen her, and it was a little bit like this, to encouraging kusala, but seeing the harm of clinging to my good, my generous deed. And she could appreciate that point. So little by little bit sort of drip feeding, appreciating the kusala, but showing it's different from those moments of clinging to it as one's own good deed. Because to many people, that's obvious that is not the same as the moments of kindness or giving.
Because kindness or generosity is also not you good, bad, not a person, it's just a Dhamma.
It's just a Dhamma, just a reality. Yeah. No one there at all.
To interrupt this, Sundara, could you just turn your mic off, please? Thanks. Sundara,
are you there? I don't know. Sarah, yes, I was having, I was reading about a sabhava rupa, rupa that doesn't have its own characteristic, but it's a symptom of bhava rupa, right? Like one moment of rupa, there's 4 different moments. The moment it arises, the moment it grows, the moment it gets old, and the moment it falls. These are different moments.
10 asabhava rupas, yes, that just depend on other rupas, like
symptom of our rupa. It doesn't
Yes.
have its own. So we can't say that a sabhava rupa arise and fall, because if I'm not sure. That's why I'm asking you.
so for others who are not so familiar with the term, so the sabhava is the characteristic of reality. So in general, we say conditioned realities. Each conditioned reality has its sabhava, has its bhava, and this is its characteristic, its sabhava dhamma. But if we're talking about those aspects of rupa, those kinds of rupas, such as the different stages of rupa, or akasa, space rupa, which is in between each kalapa and depends on those kalapas, then these are asabhava rupas. They are not rupas with a characteristic which is readily apparent, like the bodily intimation and the verbal intimation, for example. They don't have a characteristic which appears now. So these are the asabhava rupas, the rupas which don't have their characteristic which is apparent.
Yeah. So, but what confused me, because it doesn't have characteristics, so you can't say that it arise and fall. I'm not sure whether I understand correctly. I have heard somewhere else. I'm not
Well,
sure.
what it means is, for example, akasa rupa, the space rupa, it depends on the
Many
kalapas that it separates for its arising and falling away. Like visible object now arises and falls away, but that akasa depends on the kalapas it divides to arise and fall away, or the 4 stages of the rupa. The rupa itself arises and falls away, and the 4 stages are the 4 stages of that rupa which arises and falls away. John, I saw you had your mic on. Did you want to add some more?
Thanachan, are you there?
Yes.
Yeah. Would you like to add any comment?
Okay. What arises and falls away quicker than rupa?
Chitta and Chetasika.
So how can you know that it's shorter than rupa?
We don't know, but we heard from Buddha teaching.
Okay, that's why the moment of arising is not the moment of falling away, right?
Yes.
And there must be a moment in between two.
Yes.
Before it falls away, arise and it's there and then falls away. That's why upada, diti, and panka for rupa, for nama, for chitta and chittasikas. But for rupa, it lasts longer than chitta. And how can there be the explanation of the length? The moment when it arises is not the moment when it falls away. And what about in between?
The moment of growing or getting old.
Right, only that.
The four different moment of one rupa.
Yeah, but one rupa. But it lasts longer. That's why the moment in between the arising and falling away is more than just chitta, and explained as the other two. What the use of understanding this?
Actually, I think you have to turn your mic off.
Yes, oh sorry.
Did you hear Ajahn question to you, Haji? He
Yes.
just asked, what's the use of
Yeah.
understanding of?
Oh, yeah. It's not about understanding what appear now.
To see that they are not self, and Chitta is not Rupa,
Oh,
in order to see clear that they are different dhammas, no one there at all.
yes.
To understand each reality is to let go the idea of self little by little.
Hello, Tanachan. I have a question. I have a small question. Is that okay?
Hi, Anne Lee, go ahead.
Yes. I'd like to go back to the question from Kun Sundara. So when Ajahn explained, Ajahn kind of said that at one moment of kaya vijnana, there's only one kalapa, one kalapa impinge on the kaya pasada. So is that right?
I can add a little bit more, Anne Lee, because I was going to add a bit more. So as Sundara said, there is body sense all over the body. So these rupas conditioned by karma arise and fall away all the time. But the hardness or the softness, the tangible object, just impinges on one body sense in one kalapa. And at a moment of experiencing that hardness or softness, it's just one rupa which appears. And at that moment, there's no thought about where in the body or how many groups of rupas, because it's just hardness that appears no matter where. It's just the reality of hardness which appears. And it's thinking which thinks, oh, it was the hardness in my knee or the hardness in my arm or and so on. So even though there is body sense arising and falling away all over the body, what appears, what can be known, is just the tangible object which is experienced. And if body sense is experienced through the mind, or it's just the reality of body sense which appears, no arm, no leg, no body, no location, just that reality of body sense. And if the reality of bodily experiencing or painful feeling appears, again, it's just that nama which is experienced at that moment, no thought about the place or the location. So I think the point that Ajahn was stressing was it's just the reality which appears, even though we know in theory there is body sense all over the body. But even then we think of all over this body, but in truth, there's no body. It's just countless different moments, different kalapas with body sense arising and falling away. But it depends on various conditions. Which hardness impinges on which body sense and is experienced at this moment.
Yes,
Does that
I
answer
got
your
that
question?
point. Yes, I got that point really well. I think I understand that the body is only a concept. So it doesn't matter where when you think about the whole body, it's already the idea that something is there. But that is only idea, and a body is just a concept that made by countless reality. So it's quite irrelevant to ask how many
Right.
kaya pasada may arise at the same time. Yes, I got that point really well. But besides, technically, I still have interest that because it seems to me that on the answers, I can also say that at a single moment of kaya vijnana, that vijnana can only experience a single kalapa. So it seems to me that at the time of impingement on the kaya pasada, only one kalapa can impinge. on
Only
entire.
one hardness in a kalapa or one
Yes, yes.
tangible object,
Okay, yes.
it can impinge, and only
So-
one rupa is experienced, not the whole kalapa. Yes.
Yes, yes. So it leads me to another simple question. So is that the same, for example, at the time of seeing, there's only also one tangible object, one, I mean, yes, one visible object can impinge on the kaku pasada as well.
Right.
Is
Yeah.
that correct?
It arises in a kalapa, so the kalapa doesn't impinge. It's the visible object rupa, which is in that kalapa of rupas, visible object itself, that impinges. And
Yes.
it's conditioned by the mahabhuta rupas in that
Yes.
kalapa that it arises with.
Yeah. So
And
I
it just
understand. So
depends on conditions, which visible object in which kalapa impinges on the eye sense at that moment.
yes. Yes, so I understand quite well that the whole kalapa cannot impinge, only the visible object
Yes.
within that single kalapa can impinge. So yes, it I just think about that because so it's apparent that maybe so it's apparent that the table is only a concept, and we also cannot say that, for example, how many rupas form for example, arms or legs or a body, because
Right.
it's formed by
Irrelevant,
countless. Yes.
Yes.
So it's just the same that it's irrelevant to say that there is a table, because we cannot tell that the rupa that that form a table is countless, and it maybe those rupa do not arise at the same time at all. We just only see one visible object is very tiny, and maybe there's the countless visible object before we can think about the concept of the table. So
How
the
many
table is,
visible objects are there in
Yeah.
the world?
yeah,
So it's just one
it's
visible
not
object
relevant,
that
and
impinges. Yes, that's the point.
so maybe the table is never really be there at all.
Right. And this is the way to understand that it is just this tiny rupa only that impinges at this moment and is seen and then gone, never to be experienced ever again. And it depends on so many conditions as to which rupa, which visible object, and which kalapa impinges and
Yes.
which moment. So this is the meaning of the ayatanas. It's the miraculous coming together of one eye sense, one rupa, and one moment of seeing at that moment, then all gone.
Yes, thank you very much for confirming that point, because it's I recall a conversation I had with my son, and he said that yes, for example, when we see a table, for example, so many countless reality must accumulated to form that shape. But even though the same kalapa may impinge on, for example, an ant's eyes, the tiny ant, okay, but the ants never see a table, because the way it the shana in an ant accumulate is different from a human. So an ant never see a table or room, even it lives its entire life in a table or in a room. Yes, I just just like to say
Way that no matter we're talking about the seeing of an ant or the seeing of a human, the reality, the seeing is just the same. Visible object is still just visible object. Sanya is still sanya, but it depends on the accumulated sanya and the accumulated thinking as to whether there's an idea of table or an idea of something else. But it's still the reality of sanya. It's just sanya. Seeing is just seeing. Visible object which impinges on eye sense is still just visible object that impinges on eye sense. It's just an idea of the ant seeing or the human seeing, or the
But,
seeing in Holland or the seeing in Hong Kong. Yes,
Yes, Nina, go ahead.
Nina and Jonathan and everyone.
Only that's why I found so very helpful that Ajahn stressed so much. Do we realize how tiny eye sense is, how tiny visible object is? And then I had not considered this so much, but now I find it clear that the table cannot impinge on the eye sense, no matter it's an ant or a human being.
Yes, that's very good point. Yes, to me too.
Yeah. And so it comes down to the fact that only one object is experienced at a given moment, and that object is just a tiny rupa. So there have to be so many countless, uncountable moments of seeing in order for the idea of a table to arise, to occur, I should say. But all the same, Anli, just one comment you made was that what we take for table is only one rupa rising at a moment. That is in terms of the experiencing. Doesn't mean that the rupas that we take for table only one arises at a given moment. It's the experiencing that happens one moment at a time, not the arising of the rupas that are taken at the table.
Yeah, thank you, John.
And wherever there is visible object, is a sign or nimitta that there has to be Mahaputa Rupa there also, right? Like Ajahn, like from what I heard in Thai Dhamma discuss the video, another term for nimitta is that wherever visible object is there, it's just a sign that there's Mahaputa Rupa and other Rupa there.
Is it right? Is it true?
True.
So very tiny. So how can there be I? And this is the only way to let go the idea of self, because at that moment when whatever appears well as so very short, very little, and then gone. This is the way to letting go the idea of self, little by little. But Panya has to be sharper and sharper to be able to understand whatever is there, no matter it is vitaka or sanya or whatever is there by condition, to understand the truth and applies it to daily life. More confidence of the truth, stage by stage.
But like Ajahn, if you ask no arm now and no leg now, the panya is not very clear because still a lot of ignorance and wrong view.
When it's not there yet, no one can imagine. But from learning about the truth, how short for a moment is, one can understand what's meant by enlighten, the subtlety, the profoundness of what is there appearing as something. Otherwise, how can there be no one and nothing when it appears as something? Only right understanding, stage by stage.
Without Buddha enlightenment, there's no understanding. Like before hearing Dhamma, it's I that see, but Buddha enlightenment that seeing is reality, which is Dhamma, not anyone.
When there is no understanding at all, it means that there is no seeing the Buddha.
Yeah, we see his value, we see quality when we understand Dhamma. So Buddha say, those who see Dhamma see me.
And when the Panya experiences the object clearer and clearer, one knows the Buddha closer and closer.
The more you see
What is meant by enlightenment.
Ajahn, a moment ago you said, when it's not there yet, no one can imagine. What do you mean?
Okay. The world now is dark or light?
It's light.
mostly dark asita.
See, and in truth, how short a moment of seeing is, another moment of experiencing sound and smell and so on, dark or light.
Dark.
See, so in truth, the world does not appear as it is until Panya is there strong enough. And let go the others that keep in mind all the time as something, because it's not there anymore. Only one reality, which is directly experienced clearly.
Yes.
And this is the difference between different level of Panya.
So when you say no one can imagine, I mean, no amount of thinking will reveal the truth.
Mm-hmm.
So it just has to be the knowledge or the panya that knows just that one moment.
Okay, close your eyes. It seems like what appears at moment of seeing is not there at all, right? But that is not high level of panya, which directly the truth as no one and nothing at all. Because even when closes one's eye, the idea of something is still there in mind. But when panya begins to let go the idea, stage by stage, from the confidence of the pariyatti and develop bhavana with detachment and letting go so long that panya can experience higher understanding because of letting go from the moment of hearing the Dhamma, the truth of it, and at the moment of direct experience with right understanding, but not strong enough. That's why letting go, no matter when and no matter what object, see, by conditions, on and on until when reality appears, pop up. As no one conditioned it again, the world appears as it is. See, even the pop up. From nothing, what it's meant by nothing. See, close your eyes, it's still I and some idea of something. But at that moment, no one at all so clear that it can wearing away or letting go a little bit of wrong understanding of only that object which appears. And what about the other moment? What about sanya? What about vedana? And what about thinking? And what about liking, disliking? It has to be daily life. The panya applies its understanding to whatever appears on and on with letting go. So it's quite very long way to go. But panya develops in its own way to let go, not to wish or hope or expect anything, so that it can appear as anatta by itself, by conditions.
And when moment Panya understand, Panya see the anatta-ness of Dhamma.
No one there, that's the meaning of anatta.
Yeah.
Why? Because only one object appears as it is, as no one at all. So when pain is there, see, is there, what does it mean?
Just
At the leg, or the hand, or the head, or the tape on the bed, or where? See, nowhere. See, no idea of something left, but nothing. What is meant by nothing? Because panya understands that actually there cannot be other things with the moment which appears just one nimitta.
one at a time.
Otherwise, not clear.
Yeah.
It cannot appear well with the other, not well. So the world is not like one is used to know it from birth to death at all. Because of the understanding of what is meant by world.
Seeing, hearing, smelling, tasting, body sense thinking.
So in fact, Ajahn, it's not just one world, there's 6 worlds.
Mm-hmm. One at a time.
One at a time.
One at a time. Yeah.
Otherwise, it's not clear. As one, only one, different from other ones, and never to arise again. Sunyata appear to different high levels of vipassana jnana. Otherwise, it's impossible to let go the idea of self from the accumulation, eons and eons, uncountable eons, to no more, absolutely, never to arise. Wrong understanding cannot arise at all.
And in the meantime, Sanya is marking each object. So along with all that, the Sanya marking and remembering. And if there's no understanding, then we just take that memory as real, which it's not.
At moment of thinking, see, thinking of what? See,
Thinking of anything.
people and things, right? So it's not the eradication of wrong understanding, because we think of that which is seen, but there is not that one anymore. No matter we take it for one people or thing or what, see, it's gone completely unknown. That's why Panya can understand only that which appears, to realize the truth, to go through the truth that it's the arising and falling away of only one object. When it's one, it let go the idea of self or thing. Hardness cannot be table, cannot be chair, cannot be a tree, cannot be anything at all. And no body, see, no thing, only hardness is there. No doubt about the characteristic of hardness. Nowhere. Because if there is the idea of my head is hard, see, it's my head, hardness is my head, hard. But when it's only hardness, nowhere. Not on the bed, because no bed there. Because in a room, because no room there. See, nothing there. Only that reality which appears. And one begins to understand and have more confidence of the Buddha, the enlightenment of the Buddha. Because it can be known, it can be directly experienced, but with the development of Panya only. Not to go to any place, meditation center or anywhere at all, because it has to be now. It appears, and when it appears with no understanding, so how can there be understanding when there is no understanding of what is there now? So it is the development of what is there. From hearing, more confidence. No one can do anything, but Panya and other Sankhara Khanda performs that function all the time, from moment to moment. Depending whether it is ignorance, akusala, or Panya, or different kusala, wholesome realities. By conditions, see?
Thank you, Ajahn. I think our time is up.
I think Nina just wanted to, trying to say something. Nina, were you trying to say something a moment ago?
For next time. Yeah.
Thank you, Ajahn. Thank you,
สวัสดีค่ะทุกคนค่ะ